deep dive, setting cookies in GTM. Did you know that GTM can actually be used to set cookies? It's true. And in this lesson, we're going to cover why you might want to do that, how to actually set the cookies, and even how to read existing cookies. Let's take a look.
All right, it's a deep dive using cookies in Google Tag Manager. The lesson objectives for today, actually twofold. First, we're going to talk about how to actually set a cookie in Google Tag Manager. We're going to show you how to do that with the custom HTML tag. And then we will talk about how you can actually read the cookies that are already set on the browser in Google Tag Manager using the first-party cookie variables. The journey so far, we just finished with event variables. We're now on using cookies. Then we will move into the Google Tag Manager API to get a little bit of API awareness, and then we'll wrap up from there. Today is all about using cookies in Google Tag Manager. We're going to start with step number one, which is setting a cookie. So how do we do that? I'm going to actually show you exactly how to set the simplest of cookies. Now, there are lots of ways to do this, but I want to show you the very simplest of ways. We're going to go into our custom HTML tag and do a little bit of JavaScript. So a script to start us off. Then we're going to use a document cookie. So document cookie equals, and then we're going to say the name of the cookie and the value. So I'm going to say my cookie, and then we're going to equal to, let's say, testing this out. How's that? All right, so my cookie to testing this out. We'll close this out. All right. My JavaScript skills are not perfect, but hey, hopefully these are good enough to get us going. So we've got script document cookie. It should be setting whenever this runs. It'll set a cookie called my cookie. That'll be the name of the cookie. The value of the cookie will be testing this out. So now, when do we do this? I'm going to use an existing trigger. Let's use one of the triggers we did back in the day, where whenever we clicked on the Daffy Duck link. So we'd set this up with a data layer push when we were practicing those in the original Google Tag Manager course. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to save this. This is going to be a custom HTML. So in this particular case, it's a cookie. So we start with that. And then make sure we get our names right here. So it's my cookie. So we're going to save its cookie. In this case, my cookie is what's being set. So we'll save this. Now that we have that done, I have my link to Daffy Duck. And again, just for those that are not familiar with what we did back in the past of the other original Google Tag Manager course, this basically just says, hey, if the click URL is on the URL that I want it to be, and if the text contains duck, to go ahead and fire. So it's a very specific link click, which I'm about to show you. So we're going to go to refresh, and we're going to go to number one, our favorite character page. Notice already that favorite character page is there. Then when I click on Daffy Duck, so when I do that, Daffy Duck, it should set this cookie. So I'm going to control click. So we can do this, and it looks like it did. We can click into my cookie. Why did it work? Because the click text contained duck. The click URL contained p equals 58. How do I know that? Because I can go into the page URL. Oops, let's go into the page view. We can see the click URL contained. Let's see, make sure the right thing. It was on my click. There we go. On my click itself, the click URL contained p equals 58, and then of course text equals Daffy Duck. That's what triggered that whole thing. Long story short, my cookie just fired. So how do I know that it fired? Well, we're using Chrome DevTools over here. So in Chrome DevTools, you can go over to Applications. So you see if it doesn't show for you at the top, you can just go up here, little expander icons there, click on Application, and you will see cookies right in there. So you click on Cookies, and then you can go to your browser, your URL. I'm going to bring this over just for sake of example so we can read it easier. So we see all the different cookies that are under, in this case, measurementmarketing.io domain, what they call first-party cookies. That is cookies that have been set by the domain that you're currently on. So I'm currently on this domain, and the cookie was set on this domain. So if I come down here, you'll see it says my cookie and then testing this out. So check that out. I've got the very, very simplest of cookies. Now, there are lots of ways that you can adjust expiration dates and things along those lines. We're not going to get into the details of that here. I just wanted you to know how easy it is to get started with this stuff. In particular, I'm going to give you a link to one of Simo Hava's posts where he does setting cookies through custom JavaScript variables, which is really cool. We actually help use that on our own site at measuremarketing.io. So you definitely want to take a look at that. But in this case, you can see just how simple it is, my cookie and testing this out. Now, is testing this out really all that useful? Not really. I mean, that's kind of a fixed figure. So maybe what I want to do is I want to pass through the click text at that time. So I can put a little variable in here as well. So now my cookie equals a value of, at this point in time, the link of Daffy Duck, whatever the click text equals at this point in time, which is going to be Daffy Duck. So we're going to save this. Watch what happens here. I'm going to refresh, and I'm just going to refresh again and make sure I've got a fresh preview. I'm going to pull this over, and I'm going to click again on Daffy Duck. That fires my cookie script. Again, I can click in here and I can already see it says Daffy Duck in there. And more importantly, to trust but verify it, I can come into our measurement marketing cookies here. I can go down and look at my cookie and see it says Daffy Duck. So I have all those details already as well. So pull this over so you can see it all. So my cookie and Daffy Duck. So I overwrote the cookie that's there. That's excellent. Now, why would I want to do something like this? Because the data layers are awesome, but a data layer does not always persist. In fact, it never persists. So the data layer itself, whenever I go from page to page to page, like in this case, I just did a control click, but what if I just do a click? Well, if I do a click, a whole new page loads up, which means a whole new data layer that just popped up. So I have the completely different data layer now that's there. It doesn't have all the stuff from before, and maybe I want to reference something that I did on the page before I actually did this, right? That could be something that's useful. So instead of having to rely on a data layer, I might put it into a cookie, and then I can read that cookie later, maybe even push it back into the data layer if I wanted. So let's talk about how to read cookies. So we already know how to set them. Again, this is the very simplest of ways. What this does is set the cookie, and then when the browser session closes, the cookie goes away. It's pretty much what will happen there. But again, you can adjust this, and I'm going to give you a link to Simo's custom JavaScript post where you can see exactly, I think, a much better way to set cookies. A little bit more advanced, but much better. So I just want to at least let you see this first before we go on to that. Now let's talk about how to read cookies. So I want to be able to pull the value of my cookie. In order to do that, I'm going to go to a new variable that we have not yet used before called first party cookie. Guess what this does? It actually reads the value of the cookies. So if I come through here, I'm just going to pull up our Chrome DevTools, and I can see here's all my cookies that are under the measuremarketing.io name. So I can actually access all of these cookies. These are all first party cookies. So I can come through here and say, okay, anything that is under here, I can pull the value of. I'm going to do my cookie under the measuremarketing.io domain. That's my first party cookie. So I'm going to pull the value of my cookie, and it's all lowercase in this particular example. Remember, case sensitive. So I'm going to keep it all lowercase here as well. And then we're going to say 1PC stands for first party cookie, and this is my cookie, is the cookie name that's actually looking for in the browser. So we'll save that. Now I'm going to refresh. And we're going to go ahead and refresh this side of things as well. I can already see that my cookie is on there. So let's go ahead and refresh this one more time. There we go. So I can see my cookie is on there from before when I was cookied. And then now in our variables section, I can pull this up and I can see that at the page view event, in fact, 1PC, my cookie equals Daffy Duck. So now I can actually do something with this. It's kind of basically putting this value in the hands of Tag Manager. What could I do? Maybe I push it into the data layer. Maybe I send something on to Google Analytics. Maybe I pass it on to Facebook. There's lots of things that I would maybe want to do with a cookie that's been stored as I move across domains. And again, there are multiple ways to do this. I have shown you the very simplest way. In fact, it's so simple that you're probably never actually going to want to do it. I just want to demonstrate the concept of how to set a cookie. The one that you are actually going to want to be able to do is Simo's post. I'm going to pull that up. And again, I have a link to this as well, but I wanted to show it to you. I'm going to scroll all the way down. I think it's pretty much at the bottom here. Where he has a really nifty way of setting cookies. So setting browser cookies with ease. This is a great custom JavaScript. Again, a little bit more advanced, so we're not going to cover it in intricate detail here. But this essentially is just a custom JavaScript variable that's set up, and you use a custom HTML tag to actually fire it and populate what you want when you want it to expire, and then what domains it's supposed to be on, what subdomains it's supposed to be on. It's really, really useful. So that's probably more than likely what you'll end up doing when you get a little bit more advanced into using cookies. But just know, again, I showed you the very, very basic, like, yes, you can do this, and it's probably the least useful setting of a cookie ever because of how limited it is. But there are ways to do that, and following Simo and taking advantage of his advice and learning a little bit of JavaScript along the way as you do, as you practice with the custom JavaScript variable that he has set up there, could prove useful. So it gives you an excuse to do that. Of course, once you've got the cookie set, then you go back and you read the cookie. How do we actually read the cookie? We read the cookie with a first party cookie variable that's already in your variables. We obviously set our first one up, and then pretty simple. So you just click on there. It's the variable type of first party cookie, and then define what the cookie name is. Remember, it's case sensitive. So if it's not working and you're trying to debug something, that's probably why, because it's just the case is off. But otherwise, you should be able to see that in Google Tag Manager. And from there, it works like any other variable. You can pass it on, use it for the data layer, use it for as part of a trigger, use it to pass on to a platform of some sort that might need the information that's stored in that cookie. Lots and lots of different possibilities when it comes to cookies. And now you know exactly how to do it. So we talked about setting cookies in GTM. We used a very basic custom HTML tag. And then, of course, reading cookies in GTM using the first party cookie variable. That one you will use quite a bit, so take advantage of that. The lesson resources, there's actually two from Simo that I would request that you check out. One is the first article that he wrote on 2 ways to persist data. Remember, the data layer itself does not persist. Every time that page loads, every time there's the script, the Google Tag Manager script that loads, there's a brand new data layer. The old one gets wiped out, the new one starts to get rebuilt, and it starts over from scratch every single time the page view event occurs in Google Tag Manager. So in order to avoid that, one of the ways you can persist data is cookies. There's another one called session storage, which he'll dive into as well in that particular post. And then also check out the 10 useful custom JavaScript tricks. If you have not yet done that, you saw the one in particular I really want you to focus on, which is using the JavaScript, the custom JavaScript variable that he has set up to actually set cookies. It was really a fantastic, elegant solution, made it a lot easier for us here at measurementmarketing.io to set our cookies and control those. And so I suggest you take a look at it as well. And like I said, this is an opportunity to start to practice your JavaScript skills using Google Tag Manager. So if you've been looking for a reason to maybe play around with custom JavaScript and the custom JavaScript variable, there is your chance. All right, your next steps. Practice setting and reading cookies. Use your browser dev tools. Remember that application section of the browser dev tools is sitting right there for you. You can go in, you can pull up your cookies, and you can look and see exactly what the cookie names are, and you will also be able to see the values of the cookies at that point in time. And start small, just like we saw here. You get good enough to get going, then you come back and make it better. So if you just want it with a quick and dirty cookie, and maybe it's not all that useful, the one that I showed you how to set, but at least it gets you going, then do that. Pat yourself on the back, congratulate yourself for at least getting good enough to get going. Then you come back and make it better, which again, checking out Simo's custom JavaScript solution is a fantastic way to do that. And once we've got those done, we are ready to move on.
There you have it. Deep dive, setting cookies in GTM. At this point, you should be able to use Google Tag Manager to not only set a cookie, but also to read the value of existing cookies. Once you're ready, let's move on to Deep Dive GTM API. See you there.